Right, we've got 5 young adults here that range between 19 and 28. All of them have a diagnosis of autism. They're on various aspects of the spectrum, if you will. So we've got some service users that are non-verbal, some service users that are very verbal, and we've got some service users that need some sort of physical support in certain areas.
I've got a little brother that's got cerebral palsy, global theometric delay and curvature of the spine. And yeah, just basically growing up, it's always been, he's in and out of hospital, he's had to have different treatments, people come out and see him. So it's kind of one of the things that you get used to seeing, you're learning things from what's happening with him. And I don't know, I guess it just turned me into the person I am today that can do this job.
I was in the army for 15 years. I left the army and I was a bodyguard with the Sergeant Royal family for 8 years. I had a friend that was looking after, an ex-soldier friend of mine who was looking after an elderly gentleman in Cambridge, an ex-professor. So I sort of like started to fill in that role, and I was looking after him on a sort of a monthly basis sort of thing. His needs increased, then it became a full-time job. Then he passed away and I was at a bit of a loss. And someone who was very close to him said, why don't you do it as another career path? So that's how I ended up in care.
I was actually in the armed forces, in the Navy, and I just wanted to work with people. I had a relative that had autism and I got on quite well with them. It sort of floated my boat and I thought I need to go down that route when I leave. And you know, it's 38 years that I thoroughly enjoyed. You know, I mean, I retired in 4 years, and I'm going to miss it. You know, I'm going to miss it.
I wake up every day and want to come to work. Even on my days off, I'll phone up and be like, do you need anybody today? And I just love it. I just love being here. The atmosphere is great, and knowing that I can make a difference in the service users' lives by letting them fulfill it is great.
I'm going to miss the relationship. Some of the things that happen, some of the things that occur, can be so rewarding, can actually fill you up, can make you laugh, can make you cry.
Just being able to give the service users the chance at a normal life, really. Being able to go out into the community and do whatever they want, just seeing the smiles on the faces and, yeah, just making them happy.
We can give you the tools. We can teach you about autism or whatever sort of diagnosis you're working with. We can give you the training, you can get the MBQs, and you just apply and build yourself up. But I think initially the first thing you need is that caring attitude. You know, we call the care service and that's what we do, we care.
I thought it was more elderly type and things like that. I never really thought of like the disability aspects of it and that. But ever since like coming here, and it's definitely opened my eyes that there is a lot more to care than just like people thinking it's elderly. It's a massive wide variety. My perceptions of it was like it was going to be elderly, and then when they were saying like, oh, it's challenging behaviour, I thought it was going to be like incident after incident every single day, but it's really none of that. The job is great, and if anybody is to get into care and they come into this side of it, it's absolutely amazing. They will literally love it.
Yeah, we're good.
Right, good morning everybody, and welcome to this morning's Transport and Environment Committee. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so welcome to anyone who is listening in. We have, by virtue of the membership of the committee, I'm Neil Clark, I'm the chairman of the committee. Two vice chairmen, Councillor Mike Adams, Councillor John Ogle, and then the rest of the committee consists of Councillor Barney, Councillor Guilfoyle, Councillor Gowland, Councillor Hollis, Councillor Smith, Councillor Turner, Councillor Wilmot, and we do have one vacancy as the result of Maureen Dobson's passing. We also have Mr. Smith, who's Corporate Director and Deputy Chief Exec, and then other officers who are in attendance who will be addressing the relevant items. So, without further ado, item 1, if I could remind you, because I've just realised I haven't done it either, could you switch your mobile phones to silent, please, or switch them off, so we don't get interrupted. Item 1, minutes of the last meeting held on the 5th of January. Can I have your approval that we sign those? Yep. All those in favour, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a point of order on a bit of urgent business. You'll know that I wrote to you on the 24th of January about the Better Bus bid. Yet to receive a reply. You'll note that there was a £98 million ambitious plan by the government, which has since been reduced to £1.3 billion. Whilst noting that you failed to reply to my letter, can I ask you if you make a statement to the committee on how dramatic reduction in funding nationally leaves our ambitious plans? We'll be re-evaluating our bid and we'll scaling it back.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hollis, for that reminder. I've already drafted a reply. There is a reply on its way to you as we speak. Okay. So it's already been done. Okay. Item 2, apologies for absence.
None received, full house.
Thank you. I think we have a full house, as you say. Yep. Okay. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations or item A of pecuniary interest, first of all? Councillor Barney?
Yeah, it's not anything on this agenda, but I've noticed that in most of these meetings we mention the word hydrogen and it comes into play. And I just want to put on record for all time that I do work in the green hydrogen industry.
Right. Okay. Duly noted. Thank you. Any pecuniary interests? Any private pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests? None. Thank you very much indeed. Which takes us on to the first of the substantive items, item 4, which is the Highways Improvement Plan. Before I ask Gary Wood to present the report, I do just want to make some comments. As you are fully aware, of course, we have had a very extensive highways review panel, and the review has taken place and recommendations have been made. And I want to really highlight paragraph 8 at the bottom of page 10, where not only in part A we have instigated, as a result of the review, a 3-year rolling capital maintenance programme, so that will give good clarity on future scheduling. But the real main emphasis is in B, the revenue maintenance, and you'll recall, as a result of firstly everything that the public have said to us, and secondly as a result of the review panel, it was clear that the road improvements were a major issue to be resolved, and I'm very pleased to be able to say that as a result of the Finance Committee, which sat on Monday, just gone 2 days ago, that we are really emphasising and investing in our roads, because included in the budget will be £15 million additional investment, of which £12 million will be to address the concerns in the review, whereby at the moment there are 4 patching gangs, and that £12 million will allow the doubling of those patching gangs. So that will really present a major improvement in the way that we address road repairs, and that is as a result of good financial management of this council, whereby we are making that additional investment. So in time there will be substantial improvements to see in our road repairs. It's not all going to happen overnight, but it will certainly have significant improvements with that additional investment. It won't mean completely the end of pothole repairs, because there's always an emergency somewhere that needs to be repaired, but it will see a major reduction in those pothole repairs, and a substantial increase in the long-term patching with the doubling of those patching gangs. So I'm really pleased that we're able to highlight that, and the public in time will be able to see that in the future. Mr. Wood, would you like to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chairman, and forgive me if there's a slight overlap with what you've just said, but this report today does outline the actions and significant activity that has been since the Highways Review took place. As you'll see in the papers, there's a draft project plan at Appendix A, and the report recommends the continuation of the cross-party panel to guide and monitor the progress of that plan. And included in the report are updates on some of the key areas of activity, including preparation of a multi-year capital works programme and consideration of funding and increase in the resources available for permanent patching repairs, as you just mentioned now, Councillor Clark. There's also an update on the work to consider the functional split between VIA and NCC, with a recommendation to bring a further report to committee on this work. And the report also considers and makes recommendations on communications improvements, and seeks to task the Highways Review Panel with reviewing aspects of road safety and 20-mile-an-hour limits as a result of the motion to full council. And the recommendations are contained on page 13.
Thank you for that. And yes, having the monitoring panel have that ongoing work, that will ensure that we do monitor all the improvements and have that ongoing work. And the panel will be meeting in March and June as the first couple of meetings in order to start that work and keep it going. And I do want to just highlight as well the communication angle, because it is important, and as another of the recommendations from the Highways Review Panel was that we communicate our intentions on repairs so that the public is aware of when a repair is going to be scheduled, rather than only knowing maybe a few days or weeks in advance. They'll be able to see on a schedule much further in advance when their roads are going to be repaired. So I hope that will vastly increase the way that we communicate the repairs and communicate with the public and the residents, so they'll be aware. It's having that certainty rather than being unknown, which I think will create a major difference in the communications. So I will move the recommendations 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 on page 13. I'm looking for a seconder.
I am delighted to second the proposals, Chairman.
And are you speaking now or reserving?
I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much indeed. So I'll open it up to Councillor Guilfoyle, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome the plan, and I know that there's been member involvement. Just a couple of issues myself. One is relating to tree maintenance. I was trying to look where that is sort of specifically mentioned, because that was an issue. I know I wrote into the panel, and I know that members in here supported that more money available for tree maintenance because it does cause some issues. And then the other one, just in relation to the plan in general, although you've mentioned £15 million being allocated to carry out some of the improvements, but none of the issues rated here are actually costed in any way. And I just wondered whether at some point some of the financial implications around some of these changes are going to be brought, because clearly so the impact on increasing drainage, etc., gives you a reduction from somewhere else in the budget, because we only have one totality to take it from. So that may mean X goes, but I think to actually see that, what the cost of that is important, and so that we can monitor that as we go through, because some of the costs may increase from the fact that we do all the works, and clearly this may be costed, but it's not outlined here that it's a costed plan.
Yeah, thanks for that. Before I ask the officers to respond to that, it's a good point, and just a good example of that is, for instance, street lighting, where we are investing money to install LED lighting, and that gives a really big saving in running costs. And so it's investing that money in order to make those savings, and you get a surprisingly quick return on that investment of sort of between 3 and 4 years. So that hopefully is a good example of where investing that money does give those longer term savings. Mr. Wood, I don't know if you've got any further response on the drainage?
Yeah, thanks for the question. On the idea of additional cost, yeah, that will certainly be part of the work that needs to be done as we develop all of these and develop the tasks and bring forward plans. But as Councillor Clark has alluded to, there are some savings to be made as well. As mentioned, LEDs, and it might well be that it comes out at potentially a neutral position, but that work is ongoing as we look at each task. In terms of tree maintenance, if I recollect correctly, and there are obviously members of the panel here, that wasn't a topic that we spent that much time looking at. So potentially the panel could pick that up if it was so desired by the panel. But tree maintenance wasn't picked up as a particular topic in the discussions.
Chairman, if they would, I mean, I've unusually got a lot of tree-lined avenues in my area, which I continually get bombarded about the maintenance of them. And obviously when I have talked to officers, they'll say, yeah, well, the money has been reduced on tree maintenance. So yes, we do go out and check that they are safe and secure, but sometimes we just haven't got the wherewithal to pollard them back as often or deal with them as often as they would. So yeah, I would if people would have another look at that.
Yeah, I'm sure we can include that in an item to ensure we do.
And I also accept what you're saying about the lighting scheme. I mean, we started that off when the initiative first was released by government, that we join that scheme and go through, and I'm glad that the administration has carried it on. But I think on this, some of these may just reduce in like the tree maintenance. It may be that it actually is an additional cost, and I think we need to see that and also justify that, because clearly additional cost in one area means a reduction in another, and we have to justify that, and I would like to see how that all pans out. So we know at the end of the day what the true value of the service is, and that ultimately we all know that we'll still be asking government for more money, because we know in totality the amount of money, I mean, was it 150 plus million? Can't remember. The cost of bringing them all up to standard, probably even greater in cost to bring them all up to pristine standard. So we know that there's a significant cost there, but I think we do need to know what the cost of these implications are.
Yep. Okay. Well, that will be that will come through as we progress. Councillor Wilmot, I think, please.
Thank you, Chairman. But first of all, can I say I welcome this the highways improvement plan. I think it is very thorough, and some of the wording is indeed refreshing to see in lots of ways. Obviously, we on this side will be monitoring it very strongly to make sure that a number of these issues, which are very important issues before us, are done correctly. Obviously, I especially welcome the aspects of road safety, recommendations on the road safety, the 20 mile. As you know, I've been campaigning for some time on this issue. Well, the residents are making sure I'm campaigning on it, giving me some real harassment on the situation. And as I say, the recommendation that on the aspects of road safety, including the 20 mile an hour, agreed at the full council on the 27th of January. I must say, Mr. Chairman, that this needs to be read, although alongside the police and crime plan agreed yesterday by the police and crime panel. I don't know whether any of you were there, but it really opened my eyes anyway. Road safety, well acknowledged in the PCC's plan, received really very little consideration, and I was really concerned about that. Perhaps you can, anyone that talks to the chief constable and anything to do with the police will make sure that they do have it as a priority, especially as I say, the residents are absolutely get inundated with requests on this situation. Road safety, whilst acknowledged in this PCC plan, received, as I say, very little consideration from the police itself. There was certainly no additional action nor resourcing that the Notts Police felt necessary. This was the point we were trying to make at the full council when we called for the police to treat road safety and speeding as a priority. And for this council to put pressure on, I hope this council will put pressure on Nottinghamshire Police to properly enforce road safety. I know that it seemed that the previous Tory-led administration of the council didn't seem that road safety was a priority, but I am pleased.
Councillor Wilmot, we're getting very much off the. I've let you carry on, but you're starting now to talk about the previous administration, the police, the chief constable. This is about the highways improvement plan.
Yeah, I'm going on to it now, Chairman.
Yeah,
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, we'll carry on then.
Thank you. Can I ask, however, that this council talks to the police and crime commission and the chief constable, and that they are fully involved in the review of speed limits and road safety, and have a representative on the panel to ensure that we are singing from the same sheet. And also, can I make sure that the work's done by other utilities, although it's sometimes they make a good job of it and so forth, but that we make sure that the ongoing, if there are any ongoing problems with their work, with their reinstatement, that it's looked at really strongly, because at times I look at when the utilities have done work, and it looks to me that as if we've just ignored it, and it's deteriorated very badly. As far as the road repairs of our own is concerned, the 8 gangs is a great welcome, double the gangs that's going to be working on this situation, but it's not the gangs that's been the problem. It's the workmanship. We do have to improve the workmanship, and if that happens, then there won't be a problem. So it's the quality of repairs that need to be looked at strongly. As far as communications is concerned, you're absolutely correct. I'm glad the team picked that up. That the communications is a problem. The times that the people out there can contact me on a situation, what's happening with this, what's happening with that, what's happening with the other. And it's a great opportunity now to put that right, to make sure that the residents in all our areas get to know what's going on. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And yeah, you're quite right with the utilities, and that was one of the items that was actually that came out of the recommendations, that we do want to ensure, and you're absolutely spot on, it is important that reinstatements are properly instigated, and I'm absolutely with you on that. If a utility is going to do a repair, it's got to be properly done, and not just an obvious bump or patch in the road. So that is definitely part of the recommendations that came out of the panel. Councillor Hollis.
Thank you, Chairman. I did let your little shutdown of Councillor Wilmot slide there, but I would point you to the fact that Councillor Wilmot was talking about road safety. Recommendation 3 talks about speed limits, and John was very clearly talking about that. So I would appreciate that, discussion is allowed to flow, and if you're not happy with the fact that you're a Conservative and the Conservatives around this council, and you're welcome to join the Independents.
Have you got anything
colleagues
to
have
say about
previously.
the Highways Improvement Plan?
Mr.
or are
Chairman,
you-
you'll be glad to know I'm moving on to it. But
Thank you.
like I chose not to interrupt you during your outburst, I expect you to interrupt me. So paragraph 6B talks specifically about the revenue maintenance programme, and we look forward to seeing in March whether councillors' recommendations have been listened to. I'm sure councillors like David Martin will welcome the right repair, right first time approach that delivers permanent repairs whenever possible. He and other members of the Independent Alliance have been calling for this for years. Within the same paragraph, it states, the use of old lay treatments to protect the safety of road users will continue. Why don't you use the word Viafix? It's as if these words have become a profanity to this council, and we know why. I think we all know why. Can I ask you to quantify your continued use of Viafix or its rebranding? You, Mr. Chairman, stated last year that we were going to phase this out. This report states very clearly this is not the case. Which is it? When can residents look forward to the scandal of operatives chucking bags of cold material into potholes and driving off come to an end? And finally, on the 1st of February, the Tory MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson, asked the following question in Parliament. To ask the Secretary of State for Transport if you make an assessment of the extent of pothole repairs in Ashfield required to be made by Ashfield District Council. Putting to one side that this question cost the taxpayer £159, will the Chairman agree to host a briefing as part of the review for Nottinghamshire Conservative MPs so that MPs are clear that Nottinghamshire County Council are responsible for our broken roads and pavements, not the districts and boroughs? Is the Chairman surprised at the MP's lack of understanding of the biggest complaint that we receive, bearing in mind Lee Anderson was a councillor for 4 years in Ashfield and still was a councillor in Mansfield for 2 years? It certainly came as a surprise to us, Mr. Chairman, but thank you.
Thank you for that. In terms of the Viafix, I've always said that there will be a need in some shape or form, because there somewhere at some time there will be an emergency hole appear that needs fixing immediately or within the 24 hours stipulation. So you can never say, and I've never said, that Viafix will be cancelled completely, because there is always going to be, as I repeat, that need for an emergency repair at a moment's notice that can't be part of a long-term schedule. What the public will see is a dramatic reduction, hopefully in a shorter time, of the number of Viafix repairs, and a dramatic increase in the long-term patching that is going to be part of the new way of repairing roads. And that's been quite clear as part of the recommendations from the Highways Review. In terms of your MP, I'm not responsible for how he conducts his business, and I'm sure that, as I assume you have a very good working relationship with your MP, that you're able to discuss that with him. Councillor Barney. Sorry, Councillor Smith.
You're far better looking than me, I don't. Thanks, Chairman. I think what this paper does, I know it's words, but actually it's action, not words. This administration's listened to the biggest concern of residents, especially on the doorsteps of Newark East, and I'm sure in everyone's division, and put that into action. And I think the extra £15 million that you outlined when you introduced this report is fantastic investment into residents' biggest concern, and I think that is to be welcomed. I think it's fantastic that we are addressing that. I want to ask a question particularly on drainage, if I may, Gary. You probably guess what I'm going to ask because I banged on about it in the highway review as well. Point 20 to 26 on the improvement plan actions talks about drainage, and I wonder if you could explain to us what impact on the current waiting list those actions will have. There's cases in everyone's division, I'm sure, but there's definitely one in mine that's been waiting a while, and it's great that we're investing more money into the drainage teams, but what impact will that have on the current teams, please, or current waiting list?
Mr. Wood.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Smith. When we come to committee in March with the capital programme, you'll see there that there'll be a proposal around additional funding into drainage, and that will then perhaps give you some comfort that that backlog of repairs will reduce.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Ogle.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'll respond to one or two of the issues that have been raised because they are important issues. The road safety, we've got the road safety team and they work with the police, and we spend a lot of money on, the council spends a lot of money on road safety and always has, but it was a priority of the last administration and it's a priority for us, safety. The number of deaths and injuries has been reducing, and we get a report periodically here that shows the trend is down, and it's both adults and children where the figures are improving, and that's under every administration. There's a declining trend. Drainage efficiency. We had a drainage officer who started at the end of last year. That was an extra position because it's not necessarily flooding; it's highways drainage. Yeah. And he's been working for a year on this, identifying problems and looking at the extent of the problems for us to be able to know how much funding we need. And the problem in the past, it will be an increase in efficiency because a lot of the drainage deficiencies have been visited by officers in the past and they've not been documented. They've not been documented efficiently. Now they are being documented efficiently, so we'll document and repair them instead of being revisited by officers, wasting time. So the highways officers, it should actually give them more time to do other things. Yeah, the patching teams have been doubled from 4 to 8, so there should be less use of VIAFIX. But VIAFIX has got to be retained for safety. I mean, you mentioned the road safety. If you get a deep hole, you know, it's beyond the patching team to come and close the road. It needs fixing straight away, otherwise the cyclist is going to break their neck and sue the well, one did and sued the council for £1 million. So we need to prevent that and make sure that VIAFIX is used for safety, not repair. And the patching teams, having been doubled, should be able to manage the repair side of it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I did say that was it, but Councillor Gowland, that's really the final speaker.
I also apologise to come back after you finished because I wanted to pick up on the road safety. We need to look at road safety in terms of people actually out on the street. So numbers may go down, but it shouldn't be because people are afraid to go out, which may be a possibility. I'm really pleased to see it's in here. I hope part of the budget will be kept back to manage road safety. I just wanted to say something really quickly on communications. Obviously, we need to make sure communications reach everybody, and I hope the communications team will be thinking imaginatively about methods that don't involve apps, websites, emails, not just to reach people who don't use apps, websites and emails, but also to reach people who do but aren't actually engaged in the sort of, contacting the council side of things, but just look at the roads and go, oh my God, there's another hole there. There should be ways to reach people with signs and newspapers and things like that. Thanks. Sorry to come back after you.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, right. The recommendations have been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please. That looks unanimous to me. Thank you very much indeed for that. And I do welcome the ongoing investment and the work to try and improve our highways as soon as we can. Item 5, the cycling infrastructure programmes. I think I'm correct, Sean Parks, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The purpose of this report is to seek committee approval to undertake consultation on potential cycle infrastructure programmes. Two elements to this. Nottingham and Derby City Council secured £161 million from their Transforming Cities Fund to invest in local transport infrastructure that supports growth and encourages more low carbon journeys. And 3 of the proposed routes that they're looking into are along the A453, A6005 and A612 extending to the county. The City Council have funded the preliminary design work from their Transforming Cities Fund allocation, but the next steps of that work is to consult on the proposals. We've had some discussions with the local county councillors, and their comments and concerns will obviously be used to inform future considerations. But it's proposed now to undertake public consultation to gauge the level of local support for any proposals, to add to those members' comments and to help inform their future designs, but importantly whether the schemes should be investigated further, and it's approval of that we're seeking this time. I should point out that the report does not seek approval to construct any or part of any schemes at the moment. That will be subject to a future county council approvals following the outcome of the consultation and further development work. The report also seeks approval to undertake consultation on the proposed Dovecote Lane Beeson scheme. As committee probably recalls, at its 5th of January meeting, they approved the introduction of a point closure as part of an experimental traffic regulation order, which would have involved consultations as part of that. Following its approval, further concerns from the residents have been raised. And in response to this, we've obviously had conversations with the DFT about extending the delivery time scales so that we can fully consider these concerns. This report is therefore also seeking approval to undertake consultation on the proposals prior to its implementation rather than as part of an experimental traffic regulation order as previously approved.
Yep, thank you for that. And just to re-emphasise, you did make the points that, and I'll just re-emphasise it, these proposals all relate to consultation rather than instigation or implementation. And that includes the Dovecote Lane item where, as you said, it needs to have that consultation prior to any implementation. So I will move those 2 recommendations, 1 and 2 at the top of page 23. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Wilmot and Councillor Gowland.
Thank you, Chairman. I hope this consultation programme is successful. I really do, because it's a good programme, and it's getting people more into cycling than was before. And obviously, I am concerned about cyclists because the amount of cars that are now coming onto the roads is unbelievable. As I say, and it's essential because extra vehicles that are being introduced on our roads through large housing developments, and it is making it more dangerous for cyclists to get about in towns and in our towns and villages. So it's got to be concerning to us all, to make sure that I'd love to see families, mum and dad and 2 children going out on the cycles. But is it really possible in lots of areas? I don't think so. I'm sorry, but that's the situation. In a previous meeting, I raised the journey along Long Lane from Main Road to Watnell, close to the mini roundabout to Hucknall, which is unfortunately an absolute death trap for cyclists. This is just one of the examples of the need to look at other areas in need of becoming cycle-friendly. So, although I welcome this report, and I said I fully support the recommendations before us, we've a lot to do to help cyclists be able to get on the roads safely. And, I think we should all be looking at that really strongly in the next few years, because otherwise, with the amount of houses that's going to be built in the next few years, the amount of cars are going to be astronomical, and cycling is going to be a difficult situation all round. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. And well, yes, you're right. In terms, it's a matter of fact, isn't it? There's an increase in population, which is the result of, not the result, a consequence of the number of houses being built, because there is such an increase in the population, and the new highway code impetus or the thrust of it is now geared towards pedestrians, cyclists, before cars, etc. So it'll be interesting to see how all that change of emphasis pans out. Councillor Gowland.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to read out a message from Kate Fold, who can't be here today because she's attending a family funeral. So she says, many thanks for agreeing to delay the implementation of the plan to allow proper time for consultation. This is Dovecote Lane. Many emails are still coming in to me with a variety of different views and suggestions. It is vital to make sure they are all heard. Please can we make sure that the consultation is robust, the results are made public, and the process of how all local people affected by the experiment can respond is made absolutely clear. Please keep me informed too, and preferably before this goes out on social media. Thank you. So that's from Kate. So now my own comments. So clearly I'm extremely in favour of this. I'd like to just sort of expand on what Councillor Wilmot said, because this is not just for pleasure cycling, this is not just for cyclists, this is for everybody. Some people will never be able to cycle, some people will never feel confident enough to cycle, but this is for those people too, because if we can make cycling a robust and a practical way of transport for a lot of people who are healthy and who would welcome the opportunity to get some more exercise, then this will take cars off the road, and this will make the roads more usable for people who have to drive. And obviously it's good for people's health, it's good for the NHS, it's good for everybody if people who can cycle do cycle, or people who can walk do walk when they can. So this is not just for cyclists, it's for everybody. And so clearly I welcome the plan. Now, I don't welcome the plan in that it's a bitty plan. It's bits of big roads, adjoining cities. What we need are the junctions, and we have got to invest in those junctions. And I'm afraid the current plans about cycle routes not being able to be painted or put in if they're not segregated cycle routes, to some extent made matters worse. If we haven't got the money to invest in making the road junctions designed for everybody, not just for cars. So I welcome this, but we need more. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's a problem, isn't it? Because when you're planning the roads, etc., we're not starting with a blank sheet of paper. We're now trying to retrospectively sort of change the layout of the roads, which I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying it doesn't make it easy.
Can I just come back on that? When most of our roads were laid out, there weren't many cars.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's we're talking about facts of life, aren't we? Right. There was something else I was just going to pick up on, and I just can't remember at the moment. Oh yes, yeah. Thanks for those comments from Councillor Foll. Be interesting to see. I'll have to check, but I thought that when she was first consulted that she was actually in favour of this proposal, but I will Need to just check on that. Right, Councillor Hollis.
Thank you. And to be honest with you, I couldn't agree more with what Councillor Garland said. And I think to offer probably a broader point, sometimes I think as an opposition, it's our job to frankly just bang our fists on the table and say we really don't agree. But I don't feel this is one of those scenarios. I think ultimately we agree as a council that, and it's actually quite refreshing to maybe doff my hat, if I can, for 1 second to the Conservative group, to see actually, as John Ogles pointed out, that you have started to look at things in a fresh light since you've got a younger team and a fresher team, new councillors. And I think this is one of those issues where you've started to look at it differently. And I think improving on the cycling routes, and actually it's all connected. The vehicle charging points, the cycle routes, it's all that move to try and move away from vehicles, give people the option for greener, and particularly in the more urban parts of the county, whether it be Sutton Town Centre, Mansfield, Rushcliffe. These things are very important, but of course they're important to the villages as well. And I think obviously there's issues like in former Councillor Dobson's area, connecting villages and everything from bridleways and cycle paths, which are all going to be part of this kind of spider's web of effectively a new infrastructure that we're installing. Somebody had to lay the first roads. We're the first council that are starting on the endeavour to connect all this kind of cycle route. But I think not to dwell on that, because I think we all kind of see that the same. I think my constructive criticism would be, like I raised at the previous meeting, it seems to me like it's become a bit of a mess. Like we're doing a bit of it there, a bit of it there, and chucking some considerable amounts of money on very minimal effect areas. And I use high pavement. And Mr. Chairman, I'd love to either for you to visit it yourself or visit along with me. High pavement sort in Ashfield has been, obviously, we discussed it I think a meeting or so ago, spending hundreds of thousands of pounds, and to the naked eye I genuinely can't see what difference it's made, other than ripping out a bit of pavement in the middle and changing it from a pelican crossing to a toucan crossing. People are still using it in the same way, the lights flash in a different way. And I'm not trying to do down investment for Sutton. I'll never say don't spend money in Sutton, but I think it could have been spent probably in a way we'd got better bang for his buck. So I'd hope there's going to be some eye on that, and I appreciate some of it's government funded and we want to get it out the door, but I'd like to think with some of the fantastic people we've got here, which they'll probably throw at my face when I'm having a go at them later on, that they've got plans hot off the press. Like there's no getting around the fact that when you guys wind me up, I've got a press release ready to go because we've got it in the files ready to go. And I'd like to think on this kind of stuff, we've got things ready to go. Oh yeah, I mean, Councillor Girling didn't find himself in the Daily Mail by accident. If he wants to bring up my personal stuff, I'll raise it with them. But that's politics. But I'd like to think the professionals next to me have got these cycle plans. If the government do release us some funding, they're going to go straight away, and that's what I hope. But and then I think the final point on that, I really hope it doesn't become a mess. Like that suddenly we stop the programme and we're left with all these kind of polka dots and nothing's finished. And I really support what you're trying to achieve. I just kind of think that surely it'd be better off to start with big things in the middle or bits at either end, and so we can at least, if we did come to a point where the government suddenly decide no, we're not giving any funding, or a future council decides that this isn't the route we want to take, we've got something. So I offer that constructively, and I hope you can see I've tried to be constructive, because I do really believe in what we're trying to achieve here, because it's green, it's everything. It's not just commuters, it's everything from walking. And I think the final point actually was, it'd be good to make sure parts of this route are bridle friendly, so maybe people with courses and things can use some of the more rural and less urbanised parts of it as well. So that would be probably the only final point as well. But no, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Barney.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My goodness, I feel like there could be some consensus of opinion breaking out in the Chamber, and I thoroughly welcome it. It's all I've ever wanted to achieve, political consensus. That's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, also condolences to Councillor Fole. It's a shame she can't be here because I know she has a lot to add to this conversation, and of course first-hand experience now with the battle that's going on in Beeston, but condolences to her. Regarding the section that affects Councillor Adair and myself in our patch in Leek Ruddington, I too absolutely welcome with open arms the prospect of this very advanced and quite incredible cycle route, a significant stretch, nearly 15 miles of it actually, all the way from Clifton potentially to the airport and to Sutton Bonington campus at Nottingham University. But I've had a briefing on it, and I have to say that the devil is in the detail. These things aren't quite, as you see a lovely plan on a map and it looks very straightforward, but having looked at this just at surface level, you lift the surface on it and you see that there's great swathes of it which can be delivered very, very cost effectively and will have a significant impact on a great number of people. Particularly, I'm referencing the stretch on the map. This is the first of the pull-out plans that runs from Clifton to the power station site, where actually quite cost effectively and reasonably that measure can be introduced, and will have a significant impact for potentially the people, the 24,000 people that may in very recent years, near years, end up working at the Ratcliffe-on-Soar power station site. But if you could stretch beyond that, some of the bits shown, particularly some of the bits in red, I know there are some very small stretches of this route which are extremely difficult to achieve and extremely expensive. And it's not Sam against them, it's just that I think that we want the best bang for our buck, to take your phrase there, Councillor Hollis, and use it. And I wouldn't want to see money wasted on bits of section which are very difficult to introduce, will have really detrimental effects on residents without going into the detail. And that money could be better spent elsewhere, getting a greater number of people on the cycle routes. But as a whole principle, I think it's extremely timely, not least with all of the works that are going on and potentially going on in the next 2-3 years at the power station. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, presumably some of those points will come out in the consultation, hopefully. Councillor Guilfoyle.
Yes, although not in our area, I do welcome the fact that we're looking at this, and I know that you're working on a bigger strategic plan for cycle routes across the board. Still emphasises, and I'll keep banging on about it, about the future, about new estates that are being built currently with no cycle routes or provision in any way, shape or form for them. And then again, as said, that will mean that, plans will come forward and we'll retrospectively be looking at it, and that costs us significantly more than what it would do to do it from the beginning. The other thing that I think also is, for me, is motability vehicles, not just cyclists. The number of people now that are using motability vehicles about, and the number that are having a tendency to go onto the road rather than, go on the footpath. And if we got proper cycle routes, my view is that they should also be able to use them. It would be a safer way, which is another reason why, I like the fact that we're coming with plans like this is retrospective. But for me, the key to it all for the future is getting all those new housing estates locked in. And until local plans and until the government put it in as a direct thing that developers have got to do, and there's no arguing about it, and there's no, it's a negotiation stance of, well, if you have that, you can't have your play area, which is what sometimes it comes down to. My view is it should be standard policy, and that's what they've got to build. And as I say, I think we missed the point on mobility vehicles. Again, I know I've got a lot of the people who use mobility vehicles in my area, and they have a difficult time sometimes getting into town and out. Because of sometimes they have to go past a lot of trees with the roots that have grown on the footpaths, but also they have a tendency to go in the road, and I don't particularly think it's a safe place for mobility vehicles to be. So ideally, if we could get cycle lanes all over the place with mobility vehicles being able to use it, I think it'd be a lot safer place for everyone.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something that could be included in the consultation process. And also, I'm with you in terms of new developments. I'm a great advocate. Cycle routes, cycleways, pedestrian ways should be included in the master planning of any new developments. So just for the points that you have raised. And I think there is a shift towards that now, and I think it's incumbent upon district councillors to ensure that on any planning applications for new developments, that those are always one of the factors that is looked at. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just quickly come back on that district point. I mean, obviously there is the ability of local authorities to put supplementary planning documents in place that would enable such conditions within new build properties. In fact, I put one through on my other hat at Gedling Borough Council for a similar thing, to try and ensure that we get more of a not just transport in terms of cycles, but also better biodiversity within the way that we build housing estates, and also ensuring that we're reducing wherever possible flooding through things like driveways that are taking water through them rather than running it off into the road. So there's definitely work that can be done there. I think as well, I mean, just to welcome the A612 section, another problem I've got in that area is Colwick Country Park. We've been through a big issue last year. I've been incredibly impressed with the help I've had from the enforcement team and highways of how we can manage the problematic parking that comes from, in this case, at that time, it was all to do with the end of lockdown. There was a lot of students in the area, and it created quite a party atmosphere. I think that was even advertised on the front page of the Post as being the case, which didn't really help the situation. What I think with this part of the corridor, this connecting of bikes, again, maybe that, going back to everybody else's point about reducing the use of a car in that situation, maybe we will get more cyclists cycling to the park rather than getting in the car to drive to the park. So again, in that section specifically, that will be a real help for us there. I think as well, there's got to be some credit given to the city and Derby for getting hold of this 161 million and actually finding the projects and within Nottinghamshire where we can help that. And the 612 is a classic. It connects. Everyone's talking about dots everywhere and bits and bobs and all the rest of it, but this actually does connect to existing cycle connections straight away. So that is putting that filling that hole in the block. And again, obviously going back to the environmental side of things, we're all aware of the positive benefits of not only our health, but also emissions-wise within those areas also. So again, yeah, I mean, I welcome it. I look forward to hearing the consultations. I love to hear what people have got to say, because I think it will, be on their doorstep. So it's important that they have an opportunity to interact with us and make their points around how it feels for them. So I'm looking forward to hearing what residents have to say, and thank you, thanks again for the work on the report.
Thank you for that. So I just now have Councillor Ogle. Do you wish to? No. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So the recommendations have been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please. Again, that is unanimous. Thank you. Item 6, the on-street electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Chairman. So the report before you today is to seek committee approval to deliver trial on-street EV charging infrastructure. The trial is the first step in helping residents with no off-street parking provision to charge their electric vehicle outside their home rather than in public car parks, and will provide a short-term solution for residents in both urban and rural areas. Currently, there's no single organisation that has a legal responsibility for the planning and delivery of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And last year there was a consultation from the Office of Zero Emission Vehicles, and the consultation response to that is in the report, paragraphs 17 to 20. Obviously, as Highway Authority, the Council recognises that it will have a role to play in this process, and therefore we have been doing work and planning and investigation work as detailed in the report to get ourselves ready. And the proposals that we've got, whilst they are on a trial basis, they will also enable residents to fund cable channels cut into the footway so that they can connect their electric vehicles to their household electricity supply. And I must say on that one that we will be looking at that really carefully and making sure that it's still safe for all pedestrians, and we'll look at it on a case-by-case basis as those applications come in. The proposals also include further investigation and trials of on-highway charging infrastructure that would be available to all of the public, and the recommendations are on page 35.
Yep, thank you for that. And yes, this is all part and parcel of the council's commitment to move closer to net zero and address climate change. And this is a welcome trial regarding vehicle charging. As you've outlined, it doesn't come without risks, and so we must ensure that the safety, particularly of pedestrians, is still well addressed to make sure that there aren't any tripping hazards created, etc. And that will hopefully be all part and parcel of the trial. So I will move the recommendations 1 and 2 at the bottom of page 35. Do I have a
Formally
seconder?
second and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Wilmot, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It would be nice to see every household with an electric car, wouldn't it? It really would. It could see that the government's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution, the Clean Air Strategy 2019, which aims for the UK to be zero rated by 2050, and it would be achieved. Now let's look at it realistically, though. A new electric car is affordable to some, but not affordable to many others. Can you really see a family living on a street of terraced houses on low incomes being able to afford an electric car with no charging point at their property? They would have to seek a charging point somewhere else and leave it there to be possibly vandalised. Now we all know charging points are to be installed in new properties, which is, I think, a great idea. But what about the hundreds of thousands of property owners in flats, in terraced houses, houses of multi-occupation? Where are they going to get their electric car charged? This is just one of the challenges we face if we have to get everyone with electric cars by 2030. There's not enough incentive to buy an electric car yet. Now, what about the cars, lorries, or large vehicles that are travelling hundreds of miles? How do they get recharged in a short length of time? Still a lot to improve before we're there. I hold my breath. Went to a meeting with Western Power. They seem to have a budget for electric charging points. Can I ask that the council look towards private companies like Western Power to support and improve our electric car charging infrastructure? It's a very difficult situation. As I say, we've only got a few years now to get it implemented. I don't know whether we'll be able to do it or not. I hope so. I hope it would be lovely to have everybody in the country with a nice new car with it's not puffing smoke out all over the place. But will it happen realistically? Let's hope so. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Barney.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. I always appreciate everything you have to say, and again on this occasion I do. I share your dream and ambition to see massive scale up and massive rollout of zero emission vehicles. As such, I find this report exciting, and I'm going to choose to be optimistic. Yes, it's small fry. Yes, it's tentative steps. But boy, we need to be making those tentative steps, and we need to be doing everything we can as authority to be moving in the direction where we support the mass scale up and mass rollout of EV vehicles and zero emission vehicles. You mentioned HGV. I suspect that might be hydrogen. So God, got the word in. So there you go. But I think a lot of what you're talking about there is touching on market economics, and it's talking. You're touching on the scale-up factors that will enable the costs of these technologies to come down. And to bring some optimism to the conversation, we have seen a revolution over the last decade in our country in the cost of electricity production, where now we live in a world where the very cheapest form of electricity generation is from offshore wind and scale solar PV. That's cheaper than burning fossil fuels in power station. And that revolution has happened in the last 10 years thanks to the support initially of government priming the pump and getting that traction going. And now that is the cheapest form of electricity generation in the country. And we've seen the same with electric vehicles to this point. The early Teslas were over £100,000. The current Tesla model is £40,000, still massively out of the reach of the average citizen in Nottinghamshire. I accept that, but it's going in the right direction, and this authority making steps in that right direction will increase and encourage the scale-up of all these technologies. Let it happen tomorrow is what I say. I cheer the call from you, Councillor Wilmot, and hopefully this authority can work together to achieve this. So I welcome this proposal.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gowland.
Thank you. So first of all, 2030 we're all being electric vehicles, dreams of a perfect future of zero emission vehicles. We need solid action to make this happen, because it is just at the moment dreams and words, I think. Now, what you say, Councillor Barney, about hydrogen, I think is important, because I think we don't know where we're going to be in 5 years' time. I hope we're moving towards it extremely quickly, and that all eyes are focused on actually making the 2030 target a reality. But electric cars are probably not going to be the panacea that we are all talking about at the moment. They're heavy, they need these batteries, they're hard to charge. But they are the stepping stone, and we do need to have them now to start to reduce emissions. So I think actually this is a really good pragmatic solution. We're not building a huge amount of infrastructure. We're allowing people to charge their electric cars now, because some people are leading the way. They're buying these electric cars to help us get towards that target. So I think this is a great solution. However, there is a practical problem with this, which is the parking. And if you represent an area where the people can't park outside the houses now, and there's already an awful lot of arguments and upsets about this, if people spend a few £1,000s on what I assume is going to be quite a proper furrow in the pavement, we're not talking about, you know, drilling a line across the road, and then they can't park, there's going to be a lot of trouble. So I think we need to think about the parking as well with this, because at the moment, I mean, I think it's a good pragmatic solution, it's a good way forward now, but it's not going to be an answer in the medium term. However, I welcome it. It's a step in the right direction.
Thank you. Yes, just when you were making that comment about 2030, you gave the impression that suddenly there won't be any petrol or diesel cars. It means there won't be sold or manufactured or sold anymore. They're still going to be in existence. Right. The no more speak. So, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, I think you make a really good point, Penny, about EVs and the stepping stone aspect. I think we've all, if you saw a report last week, I think around certain issues with regards to the extra weight causing extra wear on tyres and the particle release of those. I have seen, though, interestingly, a product that you can strap to your car. It doesn't change the way the car looks in a negative way, that can actually capture those particles and filter them. So there may still be a way around dealing with some of that, because that is a thing. There's no question about it. But, and this is a but, and a big one at that, we need to be moving away from cars that are emitting some of the dangerous chemicals that come out of exhaust pipes. There's no question about that. And to try that, the holy grail of electric charging point is definitely the terrace street. There's no two ways about it. I think we recognise that if you're going to get a culture to change in a society, you've got to provide everybody in that society the ability to take advantage of it. And it's great to see that we're looking at that. It's great to see we're going to trial this. I think there's a number of ways we could do that, and I think it's good that we're looking at that this form initially as well. And I look forward to seeing other things as well coming forward over time as we test these things out, and I look forward to seeing the results. There's some interesting alternative, which again, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but in terms of electric cars, you can also back charge as well. So there's a chance that if you've got extra electricity in your car, you can use it in your house too. So another way that electric vehicles will transform potentially our energy uses, and when the energy cost is high, and we're experiencing that on a level at the moment unseen, you can back charge your house and use that energy in those busy times. So effectively, you are not then using the higher rate of energy generation. So there's so many interesting and exciting. I mean, Matt Barney captures it with the enthusiasm, and I mean that exciting possibilities that we can do with this, and the way that it will take society in Nottinghamshire, and the way it'll improve the air quality, around. Well, I was thinking of schools and all the rest of it, where idling vehicles are, is an incredibly positive thing, and I can only see it doing very positive things for Nottinghamshire. And as I say, yeah, glad to see it here. Great, we're trying it, and let's try and accommodate everybody in this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, the recommendations have been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous again. Thank you. Item 7, proposed pedestrian and cycle bridge across the Trent, landing in West Bridgeford and the city. Sean Parks, please.
Thank you, Chairman. As we mentioned previously, Nottingham and Derby City Councils have secured money for the Transforming Cities Fund, and this is another project which they're proposing to deliver as part of their £161 million allocation. This is obviously a new pedestrian cycling bridge across the River Trent that would land in Lady Bay, as you say. And the purpose of this report is to consider support for the proposed construction of the bridge, the pedestrian and cycling improvements which will be required to enable safe and straightforward access to it, but also arrangements for its ongoing maintenance liabilities. The proposed bridge is to be funded by the city councils through their allocation, and they're not seeking funding for its construction. However, they have discussed the possibility of us contributing to its future maintenance. And as set out in the report recommendations on pages 42 and 43 of the agenda pack, whilst given its ability to deliver objectives related to low carbon, health, etc., as Councillor Gowans mentioned earlier, it's proposed that the County Council does support the proposed bridge in principle, but subject to the delivery of the improvements to the routes to enable people to access it, as detailed within the report, which does include actual upgrades to junctions as well as part of that. And also that future maintenance responsibilities for the bridge do not fall to the County Council.
Thank you. Yes, as you've highlighted, and the report highlights supported in principle, subject to those sorts of improvements that you just outlined, including the access arrangements to the bridge. Although the planning application or the planning permission itself is dealt with by the City Council and Rushcliffe Borough Council, but obviously we are involved in approaches, etc. So I will move the recommendations 1, 2, 3 and 4 on pages 42 and 43.
Second, reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak? No. Okay. Oh, Councillor Gowland.
I'm quite.
Are you aware of this area, by any chance?
And the complexities. So clearly, the plan for the bridge, or plan for any cycle infrastructure, is good. The plan for the bridge is complicated. It's a large amount of concrete landing in Lady Bay for a very tall bridge to, as I understand it, accommodate the sailing boats. The recommendations for the junctions, I'm delighted about, and if this is a way to sort out some of these junctions, it would be great. I do hope that this will genuinely, because the county are not going to contribute to the long-term funding of the maintenance of this bridge. So I just do hope that that money will be used to look at cycle crossings on Trent and Lady Bay bridges, because as has been noted, this is probably not ideal for commuting. It'll be excellent for, it will be useful for some commuting without question, but it'll also be excellent for recreational use, and will open up the riverbank, which will be good for the whole county and, Nottinghamshire in the broader sense, not just Nottinghamshire County Council. So I guess I would really welcome some feedback on what's going to happen with the money that's going to not be spent on the maintenance, contributing to the maintenance of the city, because it does seem unfortunate that the county doesn't sort of enter into a partnership with, now this thing is coming. It doesn't help fund the trams. It would be nice if it could help fund this bridge. Now it's coming.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think obviously wholeheartedly support the recommendations, not to enter into an agreement, to maintain. It's a difficult one, this one, because it does provide, Councillor Gallen's right, it does provide a benefit to a limited number of commuters, and from a leisure perspective as well. However, I think one of the things that it's a shame it couldn't have been looked at as an addition to Lady Bay as a cycling connection. And there's also a bigger picture where we could do with another road bridge to remove some of the congestion out of the properties as well. I think that, but what I, that's, sorry, I can't help but mention that, Chairman.
Can we
you
just,
know my
can we
feelings
just
about
stick
it.
to this particular
You know my
bridge?
feelings about it.
And
But
we'll be talking about bridges across the Thames next. Come on.
fair enough, fair enough. But look, happy to to go ahead and support the proposals as recommended, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Sorry, it's just it's just been pointed out to me. In the Thames, they do tunnels, not bridges. Anyway, right, moving on. So the recommendations have been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Okay, item 8, charging for highways and transport services. Mr. Wood, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is our annual report covering highways and transport charges, and it is proposed this year that charges generally rise by 2 to 3%. The report also recommends to continue with the support that we provide to town councils, parish councils and district councils around seasonal decorations and CCTV installations for community safety. And the detailed charges are included in Appendix A, and the recommendations are as set out on page 51.
Thank you. I think this is all pretty technical stuff. I'll move the recommendations 1 and 2 on page 51. A seconder, please. Thank you. I can't imagine there's any questions. No. Okay. All those in favour, please. Is unanimous again. Thank you very much. Move on now to item 9, traffic regulation orders, and this one relates to Chilwell, and I think are we, Mr. Coots? Yes. Would you like to present that, please?
Thank you, Chairman. So the purpose of this report is to consider the objections received in respect of the traffic regulation order for prohibition of waiting on a number of roads in the Chilwell area. This has come about following complaints about inconsiderate and obstructive parking at junctions along Forge Hill. Details were prepared, consultation took place in July, August 2020 with a number of responses. Some amendments were then put in place following that initial consultation, and the scheme was re-advertised in July 21. Following that, there are 8 outstanding objections as detailed in the report, and the recommendations are included on page 65 of the report.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll move the recommendation on page 65 that you just mentioned. Seconder. Thank you. Any speakers, please? No. Okay. All those in favour of the recommendation is unanimous. Thank you. Item 10. Again, traffic regulation order, Cumberland Close, Ruddington. Mr. Coots.
Thank you, Chairman. Purpose of this report to consider objections received in respect of the traffic regulation order proposal for Cumberland Close in Ruddington. Again, this was developed following complaints received regarding obstructive parking by non-residents, including commuters and customers of local businesses. Proposals were drawn up and consultation took place in August and September 2021. 30 objections at that stage. There were some further amendments made following those feedback that was collected, and additional changes made and re-advertised in October, November 2021. There are 9 outstanding objections as detailed in the report, and the recommendation is outlined on page 74.
Thank you very much. And I see the divisional member is in support of it. Recommendation, I'll move the recommendation on page 74. Seconder, please. Councillor Barney.
Very quickly, just to say, I followed this closely. Councillor Adair has absolutely correctly led on it, and has been involved for quite some time with this. I have to say that this is evidence of the system working well. The initial scheme went to consultation, and we have listened, and what has come back, in my view, is better. And that's reflected in the number of objectors, which has reduced significantly. So I encourage the committee to support this and bring this to a close. It's the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Anybody else? All those in favour, please, of the recommendation. That's unanimous again. Thank you. Agenda item 11 is a Stapleford Town deal. I think we're back to Sean Parks again, aren't we?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Boxer Council have secured some funding through its town deal, rather, not Transforming Cities Fund this time, town deal for some highways improvements. And the purpose of this report is to seek committee approval for the proposed highway improvements to be funded through that programme. The report doesn't seek committee approval for any construction for either of the two schemes at this time, as these will be subject to future county council approvals prior to their construction. But Broxtowe Borough Council are still to complete all of the necessary feasibility design, consultation, etc., to enable us to actually consider them before construction. But they have, however, asked that we provide approval in principle because they're preparing business cases to be submitted in April this year, and they would like something prior to that so that it doesn't potentially jeopardise their funding. So approval principle is sought as set out in the recommendations on pages 85 and 86 of the agenda pack.
Thank you very much indeed. And again, I will move the recommendations 1 and 2, the bottom page 85, continuing on to the top of 86. I did have a request from Councillor McGrath. He'd like to address the committee, and I did accede to that request. So would you, Councillor Grath, would you like to...
Sorry, could we just second the...
Sorry, sorry, yes, I moved it and I didn't ask for a second, do you? Quite right. Sorry.
Formally second reserve the right to speak, Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I was I got into top overdrive then. Sorry, Councillor McGrath, would you like to say?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for inviting me to speak as well. Just thank you, Neil, for the way you put it so eloquently about what we've been going, trying to sort this deal out for now 2.5 years. And to hear all the members talking about cycle routes and infrastructure and connecting everything to everything, right? Route 6, which takes you from Shardlow up to out to Radcliffe and back, and then Route 67 takes you all along the Nutbuck Trail. And if you look at page 90 of our proposals, which haven't gone to consultation yet, you'll see what we basically agreed when we all sat down, a number of us, the executive committee, our MP, and other members of the community. We basically went for a triangle round the town, right, or the roads round the town, also keeping within that the access to the town, right, which is, if you look at Hickins Lane, which goes down to Pasture Road, on your left-hand side of the map, where section 1 is, that is Hickins Lane. There is hopefully going to be a new community pavilion on Hickins Lane with our youth services on there as well. So that'll pull everything to there so they can have a day out on Hickins Lane. And then Pasture Road, which then takes you up to Moorbridge, which now thankfully is being resurfaced after a number of years. We did want to put something down there, Chair, which then takes you to the Erywash or the Nutbuck Trail, right? But obviously, through discussion, we found that this section here would be a lot better. Also along Ilkeston Road, which are proposals as well. If you look on Ilkeston Road, it runs adjacent to Brankett Hills Park, and there's talks about us just extending a bit there and then going along Hickins Lane, and it actually forms a very good triangle and keeps you within, that was mentioned, 5 or 7 minutes to the centre of the town. Obviously, we can't go through the centre of the town because we're Victorian and old and the roads are narrow, and it will cause problems to cyclists. So we've gone, it was nice of members to go through all that, you know, and listen to them, the same problems that we've had. And through talks, we've eliminated a lot of them, but not everything. Well, thank you for the time for allowing me to speak, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Thank you very much. Any other speakers? So, sorry, Councillor Wilmot.
I wasn't coming on this, Chairman, but I've got to because it's a proposal that I'm fully supportive of, and all the things that's going to happen, hopefully, the community pavilion, fantastic for young people. You know, everywhere in Nottinghamshire, we have the sort of facility required, and it'd be nice to see it. Even though it's not in my area, it's fantastic to see it in some other person's area. The additional learning facilities, we know how our youngsters, a lot of them need a facility, an extra facility for the learning, so they've got possibility of getting a standard of education so that they can also get good jobs at the end of it. That's another fantastic situation. And obviously, to support the businesses in the high street, and another situation where we know how some of them have really had problems, as we all know, and it's great that again some businesses will get that opportunity to be helped, and of course the additional space for businesses, because there are entrepreneurs out there that want to start up businesses, and if there is a chance of a space somewhere where they can start up, you know, at a reasonable rent and so forth, it's great to see, Chairman, and I congratulate everybody on all this work that's been done on this.
Right, thanks for that. So the recommendations have been moved and seconded finally. So all those in favour? Is unanimous again. Thank you very much. I think that's the last item on cycling, Sean Park. So I could say on your bike now, couldn't I? Right, and the last item on the agenda, item 12, is the work programme. Mr. Smith, I know you've been speaking a lot this meeting. Anything to say?
I'm sure members are tired of hearing from me today, but it was just to offer committee confidence, and I know Councillor Hollis has had to step out, so maybe Councillor Wilmot will feed back. Just draw your attention to the Highways Out of Hours service report, which has been added to the agenda as Councillor Hollis requested previously. I think at this point, Councillor Gowland might want to ask about car clubs.
Yeah, but before she does that, I will just move the recommendation on page 96 that the work programme be agreed and seconded. So, Councillor Gowland.
Well, let's worry about the past. Worrying about the future. Car clubs and school travel zones, please. Can we put them on the work programme?
Right. Okay. Duly noted. Councillor Guilford.
Just whether it's worth asking for the fully costed plan to come back to committee on the highways review.
On the improvement plan?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, except I think I'd probably best to be part and parcel of the panel to start off with, but that could then come back as an update from the panel. I would think, isn't that right, Mr. Higdon?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Councillor Guilford, yes, we'll incorporate that in our future reports to committee on the progress of the Highways Improvement Plan, because when we come back with individual proposals that the panel will continue to make, that will incorporate the costing and the cost implications of the individual proposals, and as they build up, we'll be able to generate that whole cost view that you've been asking for.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so it's been proposed, moved and seconded. All those in favour? Is unanimous again. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for your attendance, and thank you for everybody watching from the wider world. I'll now declare the meeting closed. Thank you.